Make or break day in court this week for dancehall music star Vybz Kartel.
His legal team is set to appeal his murder conviction to the United Kingdom Privy Council, the final court of appeal for many Commonwealth nations.
All right, Fox 5's Lisa Everest spoke with Kartel's attorney and joins us now with more on how he plans to make his case. Lisa.
Well, Stephen, Natasha, the stakes could not be higher for incarcerated Jamaican dancehall star Vybz Kartel. He's been behind bars for more than a decade on a murder he claims he did not commit. This week, the highest court in the UK is considering whether he stays locked down for life or goes free. After a lengthy process, the Privy Council in London is taking on the appeal of Adidja Palmer, better known as international music star Vybz Kartel, and his three co-defendants. They've been behind bars since 2011 for the murder of Clive Lizard Williams and were convicted in 2014. Since then, they've claimed they did not do it and that they were found guilty under a flawed prosecution.
The Court of Appeal in Jamaica, they prepared three particular questions for the board to consider. It concerns the telecommunications evidence, jury management issues, and an additional one for jury retirement.
We exclusively reported some of the findings of a British forensic expert that reviewed the case, and they raised serious questions about phone evidence, among other issues, during the 65-day trial.
So it is our position that with all those things combined, there was a miscarriage of justice and the Charter of Rights would have been breached, right to privacy and fair trial.
Another issue was timing. Attorney Buchanan filed an expedited hearing given Vybz Kartel's health issues, which include Graves' disease and a heart condition. Attorney Buchanan visited Kartel in prison before leaving for London and says he's hopeful and, despite everything, still has faith in the court system and that justice will prevail.
The answer to question A, where evidence was collated, collected, and secured. So secured would have been the request from the police officer. The collection and collating would have been what flows from JS2, the cell site, the text messages, the call positioning, whatever flows from JS2. But all of that would have been no moment. And a key thing before I depart, because I don't want to take up too much time or
well, you don't have a great deal of time left.
I was being cheeky, Lord Reader. I didn't know you would figure me out. but the key thing in relation to that aspect is to understand that as we make heavy weight of JS2, what's incumbent on the judge was that in a demonstrably justifiable test, I would submit respectfully that in the absence of JS1, which was the controlled copy that the police officers did not have access to, know for a fact is poisoned, is tainted, was allowed to remain on a jury to bring a verdict simply because the legislation would have prevented him from being discharged, where it is clear on its face that juror ought to have been removed to protect the fair trial right. And that would be my submission, that the conviction should be quashed or ought to be quashed. And I trust your wisdom on that.
My lords, what JS2 was the disk, as I understand it, and then from that disk, Corporal Brown drew up a spreadsheet, various spreadsheets. Now, the first spreadsheet consisted of texts. Second was a spreadsheet of phone calls. And it was drawn up, these spreadsheets were drawn up from 4 telephone numbers. That is to say, Mr. Child's phone number, the deceased's phone number, Mr. Palmer's phone number, and Mr. Campbell's phone number. So they were the only phone numbers which were the subject of JS2, A, in relation to texts, B, in relation to calls. Now, as far as the texts were concerned, what they consisted of was the following. Text between the deceased and his girlfriend on the 14th and 16th of August. 16th of August 2011, that being the day of the killing, we say. Those texts are summarized in the summing up at E4788 to E4791 also summarise them in our case at 6227 paras 40 and 41. But essentially, they're the ones where the deceased is saying, I'm getting more worried. The third set of texts were those from and to Sean Campbell, which are to an extent incriminating, and they are referred to in the summing up. They suggest that on the day of the killing, but before the killing, Campbell knew that the deceased was going to be executed. He had to die. And they suggest that after the killing, he knew the killing had taken place and they needed to get away.